Dear friends, a warm welcome to this new module of this course, that is advanced course in organizational behavior, that is group leadership. In this module, I am going to talk about the different theoretical aspects of leadership, some contemporary theories of leadership and some characteristics of this concept of leadership. Before getting more into details of this module, I would like to introduce this topic based on its definitions, some traits, some elements which are very much pertinent in order to execute a positive leadership style and different kinds of leadership. So, what is leadership? There are many people in any organization who have some authority to execute on people, who have some kind of influence on people and people want to follow them. At the same time, when influence and authority are combined, then that becomes a more powerful situation where the followers are more eager and they are willing to follow that person, and that person is known as a leader. So, whenever we are trying to define group leadership, it is about more than influence. So, and the individual possessing the greatest amount of formal authority is the most influential, definitely. Authority in form of decision making or having maximum decisional latitude, in form of maintaining positive relationships with the other members of the group, in form of providing resources to the followers. Whereas, in some cases it has been identified the person who actually exercises the most influence over the group is the leader. So, it is not only that the person who has formal authority, greatest amount of authority will be a leader. It also requires the ability to exercise that authority, to exercise that influence on the people that amounts to become a leader. So, whenever we are talking about leader, then it talks about that in what manner an individual has the ability, has the competency to execute that influence, to execute that authority over people. Therefore, a leader is an individual within a group or an organization who wields the most influence over others. So, this influence, if any individual who has that competency, ability to execute that influence on the others, he is known to be the leader. So, it is a process when an individual influences other group members towards the attainment of common goal or the defined group goal, and the person who facilitates, who influences the group member, this process is known as leadership, because in that process it is not only the influence that is being executed on the followers, it also requires lot of other competencies or traits that makes any individual as a leader. So, therefore, group leadership is the process of providing focus and direction to a specific group of people towards a specific goal. We have a team leader who will assign specified tasks to every member based on his knowledge, skills and abilities, based on the expertise. So, any individual who has his authority to assign any task to the team member, and on top of it who has the ability to execute that influence of himself on the others, that is a process of group leadership, because the group goal is common. While assigning different tasks to every group member and reaching the goal while maintaining the focus of each member, then it becomes the process of leadership. So, according to James Cribbin, it is a process, leadership is a process of influence on a group in a particular situation at a given point of time and in a specific set of circumstances that stimulates people to strive willingly to attain organizational objectives and giving them the experience of helping attain the common objectives and satisfaction with the type of leadership involved. Now, with the type of leadership involved here means that it is not that an individual has only one style. Understanding the situation and understanding the team members and finding the perfect match between the leadership and the situation and the people will define the appropriate leadership style. In every situation, goal is common for the group or for the team, but how that group goal will be achieved, it is only possible when the leader understands the situation, understands the goal and understands the members and finding a best fit, that in what manner group members can be influenced, group members will be stimulated to move them towards organizational objectives or goals. Therefore, group leadership involves facilitating and guiding the actions of the group members as well as accepting responsibility for the outcome of the group efforts. So, when the group leader is providing direction, is providing directives to its members and members have accepted their roles as per the designation of the leader, then the leader in return also takes the responsibility of the consequences of the efforts of the members. Now, these efforts if have been invested in a common goal, it can either be success or it can be failure, but yes, it is the whole sole responsibility does not lie on the shoulders of the group members, but most of the time it lies on the shoulder of the group leader, because the leader has assigned the roles, understanding the situation, understanding the group members and then finding an appropriate leadership style. So, this is about group leadership where there is influence, where there is authority, where there are directives and there are different styles of leadership in order to influence, in order to stimulate group members. So, what are the features of leadership? When we are talking about so many aspects about a leader, about a leadership, then it has certain features of leadership where we can say that in what manner this process is on or this process is working in any organization. So, it is a process of influencing the behavior of the followers. It involves interaction between the leader and the follower. It implies the pursuit of common goals in the interest of individuals and the group as a whole, and it is related to a situation. As I mentioned that a leader has the authority to assign a particular goal to a particular member of the group or the team. So, this is the feature that the leader has that authority, the leader has understanding of every kind of team member, that who is more fit for a particular task. So, this requires close interaction with every member, it requires to influence the team members in order to attain the objective of the goal, and how it is? It is only through influence. It implies pursuit of common goals in the interest of individuals and the group. Now, here it is very important to understand this feature that the leader cannot just give directives to the group members in order to just reach the common goal or the organizational objective. It is beyond that, because when a leader has the authority to assign tasks, then the leader also has to think about the interest of the group members. It is not that only the group members can be just utilized as a resource to meet the organizational objective. At the same time, group leader has to maintain the interest of the goal, that it is not only that the organization is procuring all the benefits of the task that has been achieved, even the group members' interests are to be safeguarded, and it is related to the situation. No matter whatever the situation, every situation requires different kind of execution of the authorities which a leader possess. So, understanding the situation, then only the leader can decide that what kind of leadership, what kind of directives are required in order to achieve that goal. So, these features if exist in any process of leadership, then we can say that any leadership is appropriate. The process of leadership is going in the right direction and any individual possess those qualities of being a leader. So, what are the traits or characteristics of a good leader? It is not that the leader has the ability to influence, but that ability has to come from somewhere. It is not a pill that anybody would take in and the person or any individual becomes a leader. These characteristics either are being inborn or they are being developed, or a person evolves with gradual process of time and experience. So, what are those traits? The first trait is drive. When a leader has desire for achievement, ambition, more energy, tenacity and initiative is there, then we can say that a person has a trait of becoming a good leader basically. When there is high energy, there is motivation, there is a desire for achievement that we have to achieve this particular goal based on some group members and the group members are being influenced, then we can say that a person has the trait of becoming a leader, that is the drive. The other trait is honesty and integrity in terms of being trustworthy, reliable and open. Open to new ideas, openness to different kind of experiences that members have, and they have the ability to share those new experiences with the other group members. So, the more trustworthy a leader is, more reliable he is, and more open minded he will become. The other is coordination and control. So, it is not only that the leader has to just execute the influence or authority on the team members. It is beyond that, that any individual who has the ability to coordinate and control the team members, where he reconciles the conflicts of the group members or the team, he resolves the internal conflicts of the team and creates a community of interest. Now, it is a very complex situation that when any team is being formulated, is organized, every member has some or the other quality, but still there is conflict of interest among members. So, how to reconcile those conflict of interest and bringing all the members together at one common point or interest, that lies the real characteristics of a true leader. So, this involves management of internal conflicts and working with minimum disruption and maximum effectiveness. The more the leader is able to resolve the internal conflicts, the more it is a sign that the group has the ability to function with maximum effectiveness and minimum disruption. So, this is another trait of being a good leader. The other is self-confidence. It is about trust in own abilities and fosters mutual understanding and teamwork. So, the team leader, a good leader, must have confidence on himself to garner all the support and trust of the team members and foster mutual understanding and teamwork among members. So, this is the confidence of an individual, which is basically an ability or competency to generate that confidence within members, so that they can work in collaboration. The other is knowledge of the business to foster creativity. Knowledge of industry and relevant technical matters would foster originality and innovation. Now, any blind person cannot become a good leader. An individual who has complete knowledge of his area, complete knowledge of his department, complete knowledge about all the team members, then maybe it is about team members or any technical aspect or any technical objective that the organization has to achieve, then the person can be considered as a good leader, because without having all the background knowledge of the task, of the technicalities, it is not possible for any leader to execute that influence or authority on the team members. So, for this, in order to execute that authority, it is very important that a good leader must possess all the important knowledge of the task about the members, so that it can foster more creativity and innovation. And the last is representation. The leader must have the ability to represent the interest of the group members to the higher authority. For example, any union, a union leader must have the ability to represent the interest of the group members or at the entry level members, so that the interest can be safeguarded, and the management or the higher authorities must understand the requirement or demands of the employees. So, it is the ability to act as a personal embodiment of the group and defend the integrity of the group by reconciling the different viewpoints of group members. So, it is not only about having conflict of interest within the group, the conflict can also exist between the team members and the higher authority or the management. So, how to reconcile even that conflict of interest? Then there again comes the important role play of a good leader. So, whenever we talk about that who is a good leader, then a good leader must possess following characteristics such as drive, honesty, integrity, coordination and control, self-confidence, knowledge of the business to foster creativity and representation. Okay. Some other traits of a leader. We have just talked about some behavioral aspects of a good leader. Right now on this slide, we are going to talk about some other traits of a leader in terms of their intentions, in terms of their morality and in terms of their intelligence. So, first is leadership motivation. So, what is the motivation behind the leadership of an individual employee? An employee who possesses the qualities of a leader has some kind of motivation. So, what is that motivation? What is that influence or desire to motivate or stimulate the employees. So, there has to be two intentions or two kind of motivations. The first is personalized power motivation and the other is socialized power motivation. So, what is personalized power motivation? Where the leaders who demonstrate such motivation wish to dominate others and the desire to do so is often reflected in an exercise concerned with status. So, here it is about executing the authority that he has on the team members or the organization. Here the desire is, the motivation behind that leadership is that he or she is willing to exercise some power on the group members. That means it can be sometimes more coercive or it can be more persuasive. The other motivation is socialized power motivation, where the leaders seek some kind of means to achieve desired goals or shared goals. So, leaders cooperate with each other, they develop networking and they tend to work in sync with the subordinates and the followers. So, that means when we talk about personalized power motivation, the leader is more inclined to use power in order to meet the organizational goals, whereas in socialized power motivation, the leader seeks power by means of sharing the goals with the followers, cooperating with the co-workers, developing networks and coalitions. Coalitions means a kind of collaboration with the other members of the group with the subordinates in order to meet the organizational goal. But definitely socialized power is usually far more adaptive approach for organizations than personalized power motivation. The meaning of these two kind of motivation implies that which one is more effective, whether it is personalized power or socialized power motivation. So, any individual would be comfortable to work under the socialized power motivation of an individual. The other is focus on morality. This emphasis has meaning with authentic leadership. Now, here authentic leadership means that the more focus is on confidence, being hopeful and optimistic and resilient with and highly aware of the context in which they operate. Now, here it is about understanding the situation and then executing a particular leadership or adapting any leadership style. So, whenever there is any crisis in any organization, then the leader has to understand the situation and then trying to execute that influence on the followers. If there is any kind of emergency or crisis in any organization, then a leader has to be highly resilient. Resilient means bouncing back from the adverse situation, standing up again and then again taking new decisions in order to correct everything. So, this is about morality, that a leader who is optimistic, confident and resilient and highly aware of the context in which they operate, that makes a leader more effective. Because of their highly positive perspective, authentic leaders play key roles in promoting the growth and development of their subordinates and as a result sustained performance of their organizations. So, when leadership has been adapted as per the situation, will definitely meet success, because there lies the understanding of the situation and understanding of the team members, which can create a perfect blend to find solutions in emergency situations. The other is multiple domains of intelligence. So, social scientists have acknowledged that leaders need to demonstrate multiple domains of intelligence in different form. That is how you have to use your intellect, your capacity to function in different forms. For example, a successful leader must have cognitive intelligence. It is about intellectual competence, which plays a salient role in achieving organizational goals. And the leaders must be capable of integrating and interpreting a large amount of information. As I mentioned just in previously, that having knowledge about the task, about the goal will play a very important role in making any leadership very effective. So, this constitutes to cognitive intelligence or intellect intelligence, where any leader must have utmost knowledge about his area. He must have that expertise to understand all the intricate issues that exist in executing any goal or any function and how it helps in achieving the organizational goal. The other is emotional intelligence. It is about understanding and becoming aware of not only one's own emotions, but emotions of the other group members. Understanding the emotions of the other group members will help members only to adapt to different new situations. So, it is the ability to be sensitive towards not only to their own, but others' emotions, and possess the skill where people's emotional states demonstrate their ability to connect with others, and it is a key trait of being an effective leader. So, it can be that in any state of emergency, even any leader can also lose his control or lose his temper, or it can be about lose his stability, because the person is being lashed by different kind of negative situations. For example, the company can undergo severe monetary loss and they have no money to manufacture the products for the next 2 months. Now, under such kind of situations, maybe even the leader can also lose that stamina or hope in order to recoup or recover, or it can be the other party, that is the followers. But any leader who has high emotional intelligence will be able to maintain in that situation, and at the same time will have the ability to understand the emotional state of those employees and then trying to build up again. So, this is emotional intelligence, and the other is cultural intelligence. It is the ability of a leader to be aware of cultural differences between people and operate with different approaches to leadership in different countries. For example, it can be about that any employee who has been transferred to any new country with completely different new culture, the leader of that organization in a new country has to play a very important role to understand the culture shock that the new employee must have received while getting transferred or placed to another country, and how that individual employee will adjust in future. Here comes the important role play of any leader to understand those culture differences or culture shock that any new employee would experience, and how the leader has to handle those kind of shocks and differences between himself and the new employee. So, these are the multiple domains of intelligence that any leader must possess in order to execute, in order to stimulate, in order to influence any follower. And what are those intelligence? It is about cognitive intelligence, it is about emotional intelligence, and it is about cultural intelligence. Next comes leadership styles. The behavioral pattern that a leader adopts is known as a style of leadership. Now, adopting a behavioral style means that adopting yourself, oneself in a new situation. Every time the situation cannot be same in any organization, every time the organization sets new goals for the team members, and every time the leader has to adopt different kind of behavioral patterns in order to understand the situation and gel with that situation. So, OB professionals have identified 3 types of leadership styles. The first is autocratic, the other is democratic, and the other is laissez-faire or free rein leadership. So, we will talk about these 3 leadership styles in details. So, let us start with the first leadership style, that is autocratic leadership. This is also known as authoritarian leadership style, where the leader, this leadership style is characterized by an individual who takes decisions unilaterally. He will not, the leader will not discuss about his decisions with the other team members, and he will unilaterally and in a very coercive manner sometimes will execute that decision on the group members or the team members. So, here in this kind of situation, the autocratic leadership style, the leader will formulate his own policies and procedures without consulting the group members, and does not give any freedom to his members to influence their thinking, decision or behavior. Now, when we talk about in the initial stage about this kind of leadership, this leadership style sounds to be very coercive, but under circumstances this kind of leadership has its own benefits. If the leader is experiencing any situation where the employees are new to the task and the employees have no experience in how to perform the job, then definitely this kind of leadership style under that circumstances is very much appropriate. Because when the employees are new to the task, to the environment, they have no idea that how they have to perform their job. They are very new, they even do not understand the norms, acceptable or unacceptable norms of the organization, and how to learn the ropes of the job. Then under such circumstances, autocratic leadership plays a very important role in that situation, where the new employee will receive all the directives from the autocratic leader, and the followers have to understand those tasks and then perform accordingly. So, definitely it tends to create a highly structured and a rigid work environment, but at the same time it has some of its benefits as well. So, what are the benefits? So, the first benefit which I mentioned just now is that when the employee is new on the job and have no experience either in the managerial decision making process or performing without active supervision, then autocratic leadership plays very important role to meet the organizational goals. It ensures quick and decisive results, especially in crisis and emergency. When employees are new, or even when there is any emergency that has taken place in any organization and quick decision is required, then autocratic leadership style plays very important role in order to overcome any emergency. So, it is when immediate action is required. This speed and decisiveness can provide a sense of security and confidence in the team's ability to handle any situation. So, the members, the team is blanketed with lot of security by an autocratic leader in state of emergency. And the other benefit is that it is useful when employees are not interested in taking responsibility and perform better under clear and detailed directives. For example, the group becomes large, any responsibility that has been given to one particular member, maybe he would engage in the tendency of social loafing. That means passing on his responsibility to the other person's shoulder. So, while understanding such kind of behavioral patterns that exist in any organization, then autocratic leadership plays very important role, where he imposes or executes that authority to assign a particular role in a very rigid manner to one particular member. So, these are the benefits of autocratic leadership, but at the same time it has certain drawbacks, that it discourages group input, because the autocratic leader do not entertain the inputs of the group members and takes decision unilaterally. The autocratic leadership style mars employee motivation, morale and productivity, because when there is no freedom and participation of employees in decision making, it lowers down the motivation and morale of the employees, and it ignores or impairs creative solutions and expertise from subordinates. So, when the autocratic leadership is being adopted, the environment is rigid, very structured, there is no freedom, then it also inhibits creativity and innovation in decision making. So, these are the benefits and drawbacks of autocratic leadership style. The next is democratic leadership style or the participative leadership style. This is a leadership style when members of the group participate in the decision making process, they have increased decision making latitude, they tend to involve in different decision making process where they can use their creativity and innovation, they have the opportunity to participate and exchange ideas and are encouraged to have an open discussion. While this process tends to focus on group equality and the free flow of ideas, although the democratic leader is still there to offer guidance and control. So, members have lot of freedom in decision making, in sharing their opinions, ideas, they become more creative, but at the same time there is some kind of control of the group leader in order to safeguard the interest and keep the team process functioning. So, it is about both the sides, the team members and the leader, that they are working in sync with lot of freedom and openness. So, this leadership encourages collaboration, engagement and creativity, and research has also found that this kind of leadership is one of the most effective leadership style in order to increase productivity, better contributions and increased group morale. Whereas, in comparison to autocratic leadership, there is no participation. So, there is decreased morale and motivation levels. So, what are the benefits of participative or democratic leadership style? There is more creativity or creative solutions that are being offered by the team members. The team members are more open to change. Why? Because when their ideas are being accepted, then they are also keen and willing to accept different changes which are being proposed by the leader. So, it is mutual from both the sides. There is high productivity and satisfaction, and there is improved group morale and fostered confidence, cooperation and loyalty. What are the drawbacks? There are communication failures, because sometimes when the freedom is at large to every member, then there is no communication and members tend to take their own decisions and execute them in a very fastidious manner. There is poor decision making by unskilled groups. Now, if autocratic leadership is appropriate when members are new, then this kind of leadership, that is democratic leadership, is not conducive when members are unskilled or they have no new knowledge about their tasks. Under such circumstances, this leadership can hamper the growth of the organization. Minority or individual opinions are overridden, or potential security issues. Because of freedom, maybe any employee can share the secrets with the competitive organization, that can again pose some threat to the organizational security, and sometimes the opinions of the group members are taken for granted. That means they become overconfident about the decision of the group member. So, this leadership style has its own benefits and drawbacks. And the last is laissez-faire or free rein leadership style. It is also known as delegative leadership style, where the leaders are hands off and allow the group members to take their own decisions, execute and reach the group goal. For example, in any research laboratory, maybe the scientist or the professor has his own lab and he has his own research team. He would be hands off with the group goal and group members, and he gives all the freedom to the group members or the research members of that team in order to take their own decision and come to the results. So, this kind of leadership avoids using power, and the group members establish their own work standards to attain the goal. So, there is no policy and procedure, it is only that the team members have their own way to understand the policies and procedures or how the job has to be conducted, and they establish their own work standards to attain a goal. It is helpful for leaders to recognize when this style should be best utilized, such as with team members who are experts at what they do. Now, this kind of leadership can only be executed when members are well versed with the organizational policies and procedures, the norms, the systems, that how the chain functions and how members are well versed with the task and have optimum knowledge, maximum knowledge about the task they are performing. So, it is not only about having the expertise, it is about having an expert knowledge about the whole task. Then only this kind of leadership is more conducive. So, what are the benefits? It encourages personal growth, as the leaders are so hands off in their approach and employees have a chance to be hands on. This is the most important feature of laissez-faire leadership, that the leaders are hands off and the members are hands on. So, there is complete freedom to the members to take their own decision and execute and reach the goal, and this creates an environment of growth and development, because they only face all the failures about the task they have performed and they are more responsible about the results. So, that contributes to their personal growth, because maybe sometimes they will face some kind of failure, they have to be bounce back, they have to be resilient in order to come back to the right decision. The freedom is given to employees and encourage creativity and innovation, which is but obvious, and it allows for faster decision making, as employees have the autonomy to make their own decisions. So, they have the control on the environment, they have controlled on their own work standards, and sometimes they become so flexible that in every new task they establish their own standards of work in order to achieve the goal. So, these are the benefits of working under any delegative leadership style. And what are the drawbacks? This lacks role clarity. So, when every employee has freedom to take his own decision, then it becomes difficult for the team members to decide or assign roles accordingly. This leads to role ambiguity or lack of role clarity in performing the task. So, this is the major drawback of delegative leadership styles. So, why this happens? Because members have no guidance of the leader, which might hamper the growth of the organization. So, there is poor involvement of the group leaders. Most of the time they are not involved or they are withdrawn from the task, which leads to lack of cohesiveness within the group. So, when leader has no control, if we talk about autocratic or we talk about democratic leadership style, at certain point of time, even in democratic leadership style there is some kind of control, but in delegative leadership style there is no control. So, this leads to lack of cohesiveness within the group, because members are maintaining their own personal standards to work, and that creates role conflict of interest among employees, and this leads to reduced levels of cohesiveness. There is low accountability as leaders avoid responsibility for the group's failures and blame members of the team for not completing tasks or living up to the expectations. So, when there is no control of the leader on the group members, so it is not only that the leaders are in the withdrawal mode, even they are not taking the responsibility. So, whatever loss has been incurred, it is being posed on the shoulders of the group members, only they bear the failures, and at the same time when such kind of emergency or failure exists, then leaders themselves sometimes blame members of the team for not completing the task or living up to the expectations. So, if not handled properly, then laissez-faire leadership style can become chaotic, especially in state of emergency. So, these are the different kinds of leadership styles that exist in any organization. The most significance about discussing about these kind of leadership style is that every leader will not follow only a one particular leadership style, but understanding the team members and the situation will help any leader to adopt which kind of leadership. So, we have talked about different leadership styles, different kinds of traits in terms of personalized power motivation or socialized power motivation, morality, some different traits or characteristics of a good leader and the features of leadership. We will continue to discuss more in the next session. Thank you so much.